For the purchase that my wife and I actually ended up making, we followed our example pretty closely, but we were willing to cut down even further. We went with iPhone 13 minis. We really liked the size and the form factor of the 13 mini because it made us a little nostalgic for the iPhone 4. If you remember when the iPhone 4 came out, it was much smaller than the phones we have today. And we also like the Steve Jobs mentality of being able to use a smartphone with one hand, not needing to use two to utilize the phone to its fullest. And the iPhone 13 mini was the last mini-sized iPhone that was made by Apple. They haven't done a mini version for 3 generations. And unlike in the example, we don't need 256 gigabytes. We needed 128 gigabytes. That's what we started shopping for. So an iPhone 13 mini with 128 gigabytes of storage. And we were each upgrading from iPhone 7s or 7 Pluses. We had those phones for about 6 years. We were due for an upgrade. So in May of this year, I pulled the trigger on the experiment. I bought one that was in good condition, an iPhone 13 mini in good condition. It was $341. Now, good condition tells you that the screen is basically brand new, that any marks on the body of the phone, the side and the back, are visible, maybe, but not discernible to touch. They're not like abrasions or rough edges from being dropped on concrete. It also promises you, through Amazon Renewed's program, that you're going to have at least 80% battery health on the phone you get. A good rule of thumb for the estimations here is that your phone is going to degrade battery health-wise by about 1% per month on average, depending on your usage. So 80% means that 20 months, right, have already gone by. Almost 2 years of life have been sucked from the phone's battery, and you'll have to replace it if you plan on keeping the phone much longer. That's okay. I think that I've replaced a battery in every phone that I've kept for more than 6 years. Now here's the thing that I wasn't expecting. The phone I got, which was rated in good condition, was spotless. This thing looked brand spanking new. I couldn't find a mark on it anywhere, not even from people plugging in the phone wrong or from swapping out the screen. I set it up and I went to the settings, and it not only had 100% battery health on it, but it still had 1 month of default Apple Care. This phone was basically brand new. I don't think Amazon had to do anything to make this phone refurbished. I think they took a returned item, repackaged it, and shipped it out to me. And I was so incredibly happy with that. Put yourself in my shoes. This phone was a huge upgrade from what I had before, even though it wasn't the latest and greatest. And it's only going to be costing me per year, if I use this thing for 6 years, less than $57 per year. This is a very frugal purchase in my mind. And I'm stoked by the experience I had. I was hoping to be able to make an episode where I can just say, yeah, this is great. But before I did, I needed more than just one anecdotal experience to share with you. So we decided to replace my wife's iPhone. So we got another iPhone 13 mini in September that was also in good condition. This one cost us $353. So even though I had a great experience, I didn't have full trust of Amazon Renewed. So I still set up my phone to record a video of me opening the box. That way, if the phone was in rough shape, I would have video evidence that it wasn't anything that I did, that I got it in the condition that I claim it's in, just in case things got messy. And even though I didn't end up needing the video, I was very grateful that I had it, because this purchase, even though it cost more than the great deal that I got, was rough. Good condition's not supposed to have marks that are discernible to touch, right? Well, all 4 edges of the phone were rough, to the point that it felt like hacksaw edges. Someone must have dropped it on concrete on all 4 sides. And the SIM card slot was raised, sticking out, and the little hole that you use to stick the SIM tool in to pop the tray out was worn out, as if someone was using like a file to try to pop the SIM card out and just ripped it apart. And the camera was chipped. The screen was in okay shape, and the battery still had 90+% on it, but it wasn't in a condition that I felt was reflective of the money that I spent. So we moved forward with returning this phone and moved on to purchasing a second one that came really fast with Prime shipping. The second one was again around $353. Just like the last one, we again went with good condition. I had high hopes that we were going to win the Renewed lottery this time. Physically, I couldn't feel anything that was off on the phone. There were visible marks around the edge of the screen, not on the screen itself, but on the body. They looked like tool marks from replacing the screen. At first glance, I felt like this phone appropriately fell in the category of good condition. Unlike the phone that I got, which should have been like excellent or like new, this one was good on the surface. And the battery was 87%, which isn't great, but it met the description. So here's what happened. I open the box and I say, I'm okay with the way this is physically. I'm going to start setting it up. But it came with enough battery charge I could turn it on. The first one didn't even turn on. It was shipped with a dead battery. So I'm working on going through the setup just real quick so I can check the settings. And I get to the Wi-Fi portion, connect to your local network, and it won't connect. It's not able to see my Wi-Fi. I end up plugging it into my laptop in order to finish the setup process through the laptop's interface. That way I could get to the settings and check the battery health. I couldn't get it to connect to the Wi-Fi there either. I tried a whole bunch of little troubleshooting tips. Nothing. I think they replaced the screen, and in the process of doing that, disconnected the wireless antenna that's used to communicate over Wi-Fi. I don't know if the antenna was disconnected for cellular, but if it doesn't have Wi-Fi, the phone doesn't have the utility that it needs for our regular use. So phone number 2 was a return. So at this point, we've spent like $700 trying to buy a really inexpensive phone off of Amazon Renewed. We are going to give it a third and final try. And this time, we're going to be a little bit more intentional in trying to circumvent the problems we ran into. I went ahead and got Amazon pulled up for the iPhone 13 mini Renewed. This is the place that we went. We ended up getting this blue color for Amanda. But if I scroll down, you'll see that there's a button here that says Other Sellers on Amazon. This right here is the secret if you want to try to minimize your risk of getting a crummy phone that you need to return later. So if I click on this, there's a flyout from the side. It says suspenseful music plays, but then you're able to scroll down all the different sellers that have this particular phone available of all different conditions. Let's say you didn't want acceptable condition, you wanted good, or you wanted very good condition. Well, you can find who's selling it at good or very good. They're typically sorted in order of price. This is the first excellent one. It's for sale for $338. That's less than what we paid for. And not only can we see that this particular phone is available from a particular seller, but we can see their ratings. You see, this particular one is for sale from someone who has over 17,000 transactions, 4 stars, but only 78% of their transactions in the last 12 months are positive. If we really want to minimize our risk, we might look for something like this, where the ratings are higher. The problem with this particular example is, well, they don't have a lot of transactions under their belt yet. So you can scroll through here, and you can find a seller that has much more positive ratings. There we go. And a lot of transactions. Right there's an option. So this is what we did with the third purchase. We found someone who had a lot of positive current transactions in their seller reviews. And we found someone who had a lot of transactions before making a purchase. Here you're able to add to cart the specific phone from that specific seller that you'd like to give a shot. And I couldn't have been more happy with the third purchase that we made, exercising this little Amazon tip. The problem that we had is when they shoved it into the little plastic sleeve, someone's thumb rubbed on the outside of the plastic being between the thumb of the person, I'm guessing it's a thumb, and the phone screen. So it wore a little bit of marks into what was otherwise a spotless screen. Amanda didn't mind because you couldn't tell this like rubbed wear existed when the screen was on. The rest of the body looked like it was in great shape, and the battery was at 99% battery health. Finally, we had a satisfying conclusion. Yes, Amazon Renewed can be a nice outlet for making a good, frugal purchase. That phone ended up being $363, and we did spring for excellent condition because we were fed up with getting something that we wanted to return. I think it's worth the go if you are willing to buy something that isn't absolutely brand new. It is possible to get like new value out of these phones that they're selling through this program. But the story doesn't end there, because there's the whole process of what it was like to return these things. The first seller from phone number 1 that we bought for Amanda was not near as experienced. They sent me a JPEG of a return shipping label after I told them I wanted to return it, and I had to ask them for it. It didn't automatically populate. So I printed it. It had the day's day on it. I taped it to the box, took it to the post office, made it right after they closed. Because today's date was on it, I needed to just leave it in the postal parcel drop. And I did. The problem is, the people who processed the parcels that Saturday did not scan it into the tracking system. And going ground without it being tracked, without the pressure of the tracking to keep it moving, it took forever. We're talking 2 to 3 weeks without any tracking or reassurance that the package wasn't lost. I went to the post office 3 times to ask them what's going on here, and nobody could help me. So if you go through this process, my advice for you is to make sure that you give the parcel to an actual postal worker who can give you a receipt with the tracking number confirmation on that receipt. It took so long that we were able to pack up and return and get a refund for phone number 2 before that first one even made it back to the original seller. And that second seller was more experienced. They had UPS come and pick the phone up from us, but the UPS driver made a mistake. Well, I don't know if it was the driver or HQ. They didn't give him the shipping label they were supposed to bring. The shipping label has my receipt attached to it. The driver said, "You're on my route for a pickup, but I don't have the label. I'm sorry, it got left behind. But I can still take the package." Ooh, red flag should be firing off, but for some reason, I trusted this gentleman, and I gave him the package anyway. And I said, "If I'm on your route tomorrow, can you bring me the receipt?" Honest to goodness, he got the thing scanned in with the tracking number that I saw populate on my end through the Amazon interface, and he brought a receipt for me the next day. There is hope in humanity. And it took about a month to really get all the refunds sorted between these 2 purchases. So the problem with our experience, and the warning I'd give to you, is we ended up spending $1,000 trying to buy a $350 phone and trying to avoid spending $1,000 on a new phone. And the refunds didn't come in until the following month, which really sort of messed with the way that our budget functioned. So perhaps if you go through Amazon Renewed, even if you do your due diligence to be prudent by picking a reliable seller, you might want to give yourself a little bit of wiggle room in the expectation that you might have to go through some sort of song and dance to return the item and then buy it again and take another swing at it in order to get the most bang for your buck and make the most hope-filled, frugal purchase for you. And with that, until next week, until next Tuesday, budget bravely and enjoy your hope-filled financial future.